Hello dear sewing fans! We are happy to see you again for a new Burda Easy video in which we present Model 5B from the Burda Easy magazine number 5 from November to December 2020. This year's latest Burda Easy model is all about cheerfulness in the face of stern winter. To brighten up the mood and get away from gray, we chose very beautiful rose-colored fabric. Slim legs, side zip fastener, and a waistband are these trousers features. Choose slightly stretchy fabric. I decided to use a tulle with an elastane component. For this model, you will need thread that matches your fabric, a needle for your sewing machine, straight pins, a hand sewing needle, basting thread, fabric scissors, a tape measure, tailor's check or a pencil, a pen, and a ruler. You will also need a non-divisible lip fastener and iron-on interfacing. I cut out pattern pieces 1 to 4, which are on pattern sheet 3, in accordance with the cutting layout. In the process, I added all the seam allowances and copied all the lines and notches that appear on the pattern. I also cut out piece 3 and piece 4 from the iron-on interfacing. And now I press the interfacing pieces to the wrong side of both of my pieces. As soon as all the preparations are finished, I start putting the pieces together and neatening the edges. I'm using the Excellence 580 Plus sewing machine from Elna. To neaten the edges, I'd like to recommend an overlock stitch if your sewing machine has one, or you can use a zigzag stitch. I fold the back darts and place the dart lines that I copied after cutting out the pieces together with the wrong side of the fabric on the outside. Now, I pin the darts. I stitch the darts from the upper edge of the trousers to the point. I stop sewing by pressing the button that automatically knots the thread and cuts them off. I press the darts to the center back. For the right side, I place the right piece of the front leg on the right piece of the back leg, right sides together. I pin them, making sure that the notches at the knees match, and then stitch the side seam of the right side along seam 1. For the left side, I start at the notch for the slit of the zip fastener. I secure the seam ends on the side seams by back stitching. I neaten the allowances separately and press the seams apart. On the left side, I fold the allowances that are not stitched together to the inside and press them flat so that the folds touch edge to edge. Now I place the allowances of the inside seam right sides together and pin them, making sure that the notches at the knees match. I stitch them together along seam 2, slightly stretching the back leg to the notch at the knees. I neaten the allowances separately and press the seams apart. I turn one trouser's leg inside out and push it into the other leg with the wrong side to the outside. One trouser leg is now inside the other one, and the right sides are together. I place the inside seams together and place the allowances of the center front and back seams to match in the crotch and pin them together. I stitch the center front and back seam from leg end to leg end and secure the seam ends by back stitching. I neaten the seam allowances separately and press the seam apart, starting at the top edge and finishing where the curve begins. I place the reinforced rear waistband on the reinforced front waistband, right sides together, and stitch the right side seam along seam 3. I place the waistband pieces without interfacing right sides together and stitch the right side seam together now. The other side seam, which I just stitched together, is on the opposite side. Now I press the seams apart. I place the reinforced waistband on the upper trouser's edge, right sides together with the side seams meeting, and pin the allowances. I open the zip slit to do so. I now stitch the waistband to the trousers. I trim the allowances and press them towards the waistband. I put the zip fastener under the slit so that the zip stops at the allowances of the upper waistband edge and that the middle of the teeth are flush with the folded edges of the slit. I open the zip fastener, pin it, and baste it to the slit allowances. I put the zipper foot on the sewing machine and top stitch the slit edge 7 millimeters away from the fold. When I get to the bottom of the zip fastener where the notch is, I turn the trousers so I can stitch at a right angle and then turn them again so I can continue stitching along the opposite side. I secure the seam ends by back stitching. I place the upper edge of the waistband without reinforcement on the upper edge of the reinforced waistband, right sides together. The side seams meet and I fold the slit allowances to the left. I pin everything together. I put the normal foot back on the sewing machine and sew the edges together, securing the ends by back stitching. I trim the seam allowances and neaten the waistband allowance that hasn't been stitched. The slit edges stay folded on the inside. I fold the inner waistband onto the trousers and press the seam of the upper edge so it is flat. I pin the lower seam of the outer and inner waistband and stitch from the outside in the ditch to include the inner waistband in the line of stitching. I sew the inner edges of the slip to the zip fastener tape by hand. I remove the free arm from the sewing machine, neaten the seam of the lower trouser's edge, press the allowance to the inside, and top stitch the lower trouser's edge 1 centimeter from the fold line. Thanks to their stretch, these comfortable trousers will be a winter's favorite piece. And if you sew them with a finer fabric, but always with a stretched component, you can wear them in autumn as well. Burda Style thanks and recommends its partner, Elna. See you soon with new Burda Easy tutorials.